Hello students, in this video we shall learn how to use images in a web page, and we are going to build our first web page involving images. In HTML we have a special tag called img to add images. Let's go through its syntax and see why is it different from the other tags we have already learned. So as always we begin with an angular bracket and then we write the tag name img. After that we put an space and then we need to add an attribute just like we added for the a tag. The attribute here is going to be src for source equals to double quotation marks, and here we need to add the name of the image. As an example, if we have an image as for our logo, we are going to name it logo.png. Then we are going to close our angular bracket, and the thing about img tag is that we don't need to close it. All the other tags we have learned like p and h1, we need to add a closing tag by adding angular bracket slash tag name and angular bracket close. But in img tag we cannot add any tags. We have already added the image name in src, so we don't need to close the img tag. We just need to open it and it's closed automatically for us. So let us see that in practice. I am going to launch VS Code, file, open folder. I'm going to create a new folder. Let's call that images, and let's select that folder. Here I am going to create a new file called index.html, and we haven't discussed that yet. But whenever we are creating our home page in HTML, the page we want users to see when we open the website for the first time, we want to name it index.html. This is the best practice. Don't worry about why it's used. Just remember that the home or landing page in your website is going to be named index.html. Let's add the proper HTML structure. Angular bracket open, doc type, HTML angular bracket close. Then we have HTML tag, head tag. Inside of it, we are going to add a title tag and name it HTML images. Then our body tag. And inside the body tag, I am going to add an h1. So we have something to look at. Let's call it HTML images as well. And now I am going to click go live. So here we are. We have a simple web page like we have built already. And we need to start by adding an image here. So in order to add an image, we first need to find the image that we are going to add. And to find that image, I am going to go to a website called pixabay.com. There are other websites like this. For now, I am just going to go to pixabay.com. You can find the link in the description. And here, let us search for any image, or we can just use any images available here directly. So let me add this image. I am going to right click the image and select open image in new tab. And now we can copy the URL here and use it as our image source. So I am going to go back to VS Code, img tag open, src. Inside the src tag, we are going to paste our entire URL that we just copied and then angular bracket close. And just like we discussed, no need to close the tag itself. Let's save it, and there we go. Our image is now displayed on the web page. Now let's try using an image from Google Images instead of using a special website like Pixabay. I am going to search for something like car images. We have a variety of images here. Let's go to images, select any image, and I am going to follow the same procedure. right image and select open image in new tab. It's opened. We just need to copy the URL again, just like we did for Pixabay. Simply right click any image, select open image in new tab, and then we're going to go back there. I'm going to add another heading, name it car image, and now to add our img tag, angular bracket open, img src attribute, we are going to paste our URL and then close the tag. And if we go back and scroll down, we have our second image added as well. And you will note something that both of our images have a different size. The reason is that our first image from Pixabay has a very high resolution. We can hover on it to see that its resolution is 1280 x 853. And if we scroll on the other tab, its resolution is 474 x 314. So HTML is automatically scaling them to make them look good according to their resolution. However, we don't need to stick with their resolution. Let's scale them manually. I am going to go back there and we are going to add a second attribute. Adding a second attribute is very simple. We just need to add an space, and I am going to define its height by adding a height attribute. And let's give it a height of 500. And once we save, its height has been reduced and its width has also been reduced to automatically align it with our height. Let's try increasing the size of that image as well. Space height equals to 500. And that image has been scaled up as well. And if you look closely, you might note that our top image is very crisp and sharp. We can see actual vessels and each vein separately. However, if we go to our second image, it looks slightly blurred and broken. The leaves are blurred here, the tires don't have a sharp texture like the above image. The reason is that the image below has a very low resolution. We have scaled it past its resolution and now it's scaling up and looking blurred and dull like this. So that's not a matter right now, but whenever we're using any full page images or any other large images on our web page, we need to ensure that its resolution is high enough for it to appear clearly. Now we have seen two methods of using images. We have used an image from Pixabay and we have used an image from Google Images directly. Now let's try to download an image or use an already downloaded image in our website. I am going to begin by going back to Pixabay, look for any other. Let's use this image. I am going to open it and select download. Different resolutions are available. You might think that you need to use the highest available resolution. However, if our image is too large, it's going to slow down the loading of our web page. So we want to go with something that looks good and still isn't too heavy on our web page. So we are going to go with 1275 x 1920. It should be good enough for our needs. And let's click download. It's downloaded. We are going to go to our downloads folder and I'm going to rename it to something where we can use it easily. Something like apple-image, and I'm going to copy it and paste it into VS Code. Select paste. Let's add another h2, apple image, and here I am going to open the img tag again, src, and inside the src we are going to write the name of the file we just downloaded. I am going to name that apple-img image.jpg. Let's close the tag, and once we go back there, a third image is added as well. We want to reduce the width of this image so it aligns with the top two images. So I am going to add a new tag, name it width, and add a width of 500. Now it's smaller. Let's try 700. Let's try 750. Okay, we are going to give the same width to our top images as well. Width equals to 750 and width equals to 750. And now all three of our images are aligned perfectly. So let's try that again. I'm sorry for the repetition, but it's going to be really helpful during your assignment. Let's go back to Pixabay. I'm going to select any other image like this, for example. Download. I'm going to select this size. Download. Open our downloads folder, and I am going to name that flowers. Let's just name that flowers.jpg. And now I am going to create a new folder to keep my images. So right click, new folder, and name that folder images. This all my images would be in one place. It would be easier for me to manage and organize them later if I happen to have hundreds of them. And let's copy and paste our image inside the images folder. I need to click the images folder and then I can press Ctrl V to paste. Select paste. The image is open. I am going to add another H2. Name it flowers image. Open an RIMG tag again. SRC. And in order to use an image inside a folder, we need to write the name of the folder first. Slash. In order to go inside the folder, we are going to write a slash and then the name of our image. Tag close, save. Let's go back to our web page. The image is too large. We need to reduce its width. So let's reduce the width to 750. And there we go. All our images are aligned now. Now let us review just one last thing. Let me go back to VS Code and I am going to make any spelling mistake in our first image. Save that again. Um, is it being cached? Okay. Hidden now, and all we can see is that whole border and that broken image sign in the left top left. So whenever there is a network issue or our image gets or our image simply doesn't exist, we mistype the URL. We are presented with this widget instead. And we want the user to be able to tell that what the image was going to say. We don't want the user to be completely stuck just because they cannot see the image. And in most modern websites, your users aren't going to have any network issues. You're not going to lead to a missing image. However, if your website is visited by someone who cannot see, maybe they're blind or visually impaired, or they just don't want to look at your web page, they want to listen to it instead. They're going to use something called a screen reader, and a screen reader is going to read all the headings and any text inside your web page, but it cannot read images. So we want to give it some kind of indication that what this image is about. So we are going to go back and add another attribute called alt. Here I am going to say Let's set our image back first. I think those are just leaves and petals, so I am going to say dry leaves. And now as you can see, our image doesn't load. We have made a mistake in the URL, but we can see the context of the image, so users aren't lost, they know what the image was about. So let's add that back. Wait, sorry. There we go. And all our images are added back. Let's try adding an alt tag to this as well. Alt attribute, sorry. Alt, let's call it blue car. Save, and there's no difference. But if we make any kind of mistake in the URL, this is going to show blue car instead of the image. And now just one last thing. I know you might be getting tired, and I said that alt was the last thing we are going to study. But let us just study one more thing. If we don't have an alt tag, the screen reader is simply going to read the src of the image. As an example, if a user uses some kind of screen reader to read this page, it's going to read these two. Let's remove the alt here, and here it's going to try reading the entire URL to the user. And we don't want it to read this entire URL, it's just going to get confusing, the user wouldn't understand anything. Instead, if the image is for decorational purposes only, we don't want it to be read, we are going to add an empty alt tag. This is important because otherwise the screen reader is just going to start reading the whole URL. This is just a bunch of random characters, the user would get confused, and we don't want this image to be read out to blind or screen reader users. We don't want them to see image, so we are going to add an empty alt tag so they are not going to see anything at all. So let's save that. Nothing appears different, but now if any user is using a screen reader or something similar, this image would not be read, this would simply be skipped entirely. Now let's move on to the project. We are going to remove everything here, and let me open our project. That's our project. It's very simple. We just have a few headings, and then we have our first image, another heading, another image, and then just a p tag. So let's begin. First of all, we are going to define the proper structure for HTML. Let me delete those images as well. We don't need them anymore. So first of all, angular bracket open, doc type, then we have our HTML tag. Let me show you a simple trick here. You don't need to write angular bracket HTML. You can just write HTML, press enter, and your tags will be completed automatically. Let's try that again. Head, enter, and our tag is completed. Then we have our title. Let's call it this project. Then we have our body, and inside the body we are going to add an h1 tag. So let's begin. Write h1, press enter. No need to use angular brackets anymore. And we are going to use the same text here. Let me go back to our current web page as well. We would need to refresh it once, and the h1 is added. Now let's add this p tag. We're going to go after the h1, add a p tag, add a text. Our p tag is added as well. Next, we are going to add an h2 tag. This is an h1, but we are just going to stick with an h2. H2, and then we have our first image. And for this, I'm going to use an AI generated image. I can also search on Pixabay. For now, let's just search on Pixabay for a suitable image. I am going to copy this heading and search for universe in OAT. Let's see if something pops up. Um, Nothing is suitable for our current context, so let us just stick with this image. Download, and let's click download. I am going to go to our downloads folder and rename it to universe. Yeah, you can name it anything. I'm just going to name it something I find suitable. We are going to create a new folder, call that images, and paste my image inside. Let's add a first image, img src equals to images slash to go inside the folder, and we can just press enter or tab to select the first image. I'm going to add an alt tag. Let's call that universe node and then close our image tag. Our image is added. It appears too large right now. I am going to reduce its width to only 600, and let's keep its height automated. So alright, let's move on to the second image. H2, and now we can also use any image directly outside of a web page. We just need to right click the image, open image in new tab. You need to find any suitable image here. I am just going to use that image. You can go to Pixabay and search for any suitable image. Here I am going to right click and select save image as. I am going to store it in our downloads folder. Let's call it filelands.jpg, and now we are going to copy our JPEG file inside images. That's a file, not JPEG. img src images. We are going to select a second image, press enter to complete. Then we have our alt, and I am just going to call it fantasy landscape, image close. Let's go back to our web page. I think the size is way more suitable here. I'm still going to reduce it slightly. Let's reduce it to 750 points, and there we go. Both of our images are rendered properly. Let's add the final p tag as well. I am going to copy it, add a p tag, and just paste the text. You can skip it entirely or add any text you find suitable. Let's go back, and our p tag is added as well. So finally, let's move on to our assignment. The project is done. Now for your assignment, you might remember the assignment from last class. If you haven't completed it, make sure to complete it because it's going to be used in today's assignment. Wait, sorry. Here we go. It's a very simple web page. We have our home page, then we have two products page. What you need to do is you need to generate any images using AI or search them of Pixabay, and you need to add those images after the heading. Once the users open the page, below the heading you are going to show them the image of the product that they are going to buy. Similarly, you need to add an image under the Stardust Pebble as well. You can generate this image of AI. You can also search it of Pixabay, and you need to complete this assignment by adding images to both pages. Again, once you complete the assignment, let me know in the comments. If you have any issues or if you can't follow through, let me know and I shall try to clarify that up further. So I think that's enough for today. Complete your assignment and let's meet again in the next video.